Hey everyone, you know how sometimes a book just lands in your lap at exactly the right moment and it feels like it was written just for you? Well, that's exactly how I felt about Dr. Nicola Pruss's incredible book, How to Do the Work, Recognize Your Patterns. Heal from your past and create yourself. Seriously, if you've ever felt stuck, or like you're repeating the same old patterns, or even just a little disconnected from yourself, you're going to want to hear about this one. It's not just a book, it's a roadmap to actually transforming your life from the inside out. So, why did this book resonate so deeply with me? Dr. Lepra, a clinical psychologist, opens up right away about her own journey, and it's so incredibly relatable. She was living what looked like a successful life, thriving in her career, in a loving relationship, hitting all those conventional milestones by her 30s, but she found herself in this dark night of the soul, literally sobbing into a bowl of oatmeal in a log cabin. She was burnt out, feeling distant from loved ones, constantly distracted, and just plain empty. She even started experiencing some pretty alarming physical symptoms like brain fog and fainting spells. For years, she rationalized it all away, thinking, oh, I just have a bad memory, or this is just anxiety, it's genetic. But deep down, she realized she was living a life that mirrored her mother's struggles, with similar physical pains and chronic anxiety. It was a massive soul signal, screaming at her to pay attention. What she realized, and what this book is all about, is that traditional approaches to mental health often fall short. She saw it with her clients, and she saw it in her own life. Those weekly 50-minute therapy sessions, while helpful, weren't enough to create lasting fundamental change. It was a band-aid model, as she calls it, focusing on symptoms rather than getting to the root. This is where holistic psychology comes in. It's a revolutionary approach that insists on treating the whole person, your mind, your body, and your soul, all interconnected. Now, you might be thinking, mind, body, soul? Sounds a bit woo-woo, and honestly, I get that, but Dr. Lepra grounds it all in science, and it's fascinating. She talks about epigenetics, which is this groundbreaking discovery that our genes are in destiny. We might inherit certain predispositions, but our environment, our choices, our relationships, even what we eat and how we sleep can actually alter gene expression, turning genes on or off. So the feeling that you're just wired this way because your family is, say, prone to anxiety, the book tells us that's not the full story. We have far more impact over our mental wellness than we might think. She dives into the placebo and nocebo effects too, which powerfully illustrate this point. Remember the feeling when you just think about biting into a sour lemon and your mouth puckers? That's your mind affecting your body. The placebo effect shows us how powerfully our belief that we'll get better can trigger actual physiological healing. And the nocebo effect, its evil twin, demonstrates the opposite. Negative expectations can literally make us sicker, or even lead to tragic outcomes, like the doctor who accidentally told a patient he had 3 months to live, and the man died on schedule, with no cancer found in autopsy. Our thoughts and beliefs aren't just thoughts, they're deeply powerful tools that shape our reality. So, if we have this incredible power, why do so many of us feel stuck? This is a core question she addresses. Dr. Lepra explains that much of the time, we're operating on autopilot, unconsciously driven by our subconscious mind. Our subconscious stores every single experience we've ever had, especially those from childhood, and it prioritizes keeping us safe by sticking to the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. This is called the homeostatic impulse, and it's why breaking old habits feels so incredibly hard. Your brain prefers to conserve energy by sticking to what it knows, and this stubbornness is often rooted in trauma. Now, she broadens the definition of trauma far beyond catastrophic events like severe abuse or neglect, which are indeed life-altering. She defines it as any overwhelming experience where an individual lacks the ability to emotionally regulate or process and then release the event, causing dysfunctionality in the nervous system. It's about feeling in a state of relative helplessness. She shares how her own childhood, which she once considered normal, was actually marked by a form of spiritual trauma, a consistent denial of her reality, a feeling of not being seen or heard, leading to her disconnecting from her authentic self and storing very few memories. This kind of childhood conditioning shapes our core beliefs about ourselves and the world. often before age 7, and those beliefs then filter everything we experience. This unresolved trauma, she explains, gets lodged in our trauma body, causing physiological stress. She learned about polyvagal theory, which explains how our vagus nerve, connecting our brain and gut and every major organ, controls our stress responses: fight, flight, or freeze immobilization. My fainting spells, for example, were a freeze response, and immobilization when her body perceived a threat even when there wasn't an obvious one, when our nervous system is constantly in this hyperactivated state. It leads to issues like chronic inflammation, gut problems, anxiety, and an inability to connect. She even delves into emotional addiction, the idea that we can become addicted to familiar emotional states, even painful ones. Have you ever felt that rush of outrage from watching the news, or found yourself drawn to unpredictable relationships that create constant drama? It's our subconscious craving that familiar biochemical roller coaster, the hit of stress hormones, because it feels like home. So, how do we break free? The core of how to do the work is about cultivating consciousness. It's about becoming an active, daily participant in your own healing. The first step is simply witness and observing your internal world without judgment. It sounds simple, but it's fundamental. She had a client named Jessica who was stuck in a cycle of emotional reactivity and self-blame, constantly repeating the same relationship narratives. By learning to pause and witness her thoughts and behaviors, Jessica began to create space for choice, rather than just reacting on autopilot. Then we get to meeting your inner child. We all have this childlike part of ourselves that holds our unmet needs, suppressed emotions, creativity, and intuition. When these needs weren't met in childhood, that inner child gets wounded and often drives our adult reactions impulsively. Think about Anthony, who experienced severe sexual abuse and a dismissive father, leading him to believe he was a bad person and to seek achievement and secret sexual behaviors to cope. His journey was about realizing his wounded inner child was behind these compulsive behaviors, not that he was inherently bad. And hand in hand with the inner child is befriending your ego. Our ego is like the protector of the wounded inner child, constantly creating stories about who I am and fiercely defending them. Dr. Lepra's own example is so vivid. Her blind rage over dirty dishes in the sink wasn't about the dishes, it was her ego activating her core belief that I am not considered. A narrative formed in childhood when her anxious mother was too consumed by her own fears to be emotionally present. The goal isn't ego death, she says, but empowerment consciousness, learning to witness your ego's stories and fears without letting them control your reactions. This work then extends to our relationships, especially through understanding trauma bonds. These are problematic relationship patterns, rooted in our earliest attachments, where we might unconsciously seek out the familiar dynamics of emotional abandonment or lack of boundaries, mistaking the excitement of unpredictability for love. Think about Joshua and Shira, where his emotional withdrawal triggered her abandonment fears, leading to a constant approach-withdrawal dynamic where neither's needs were truly met. Dr. Lepra herself recounts how her early relationship with Lolly was a trauma bond, mirroring her childhood stress and chaos. The painful truth is, you can only be as connected to others as you are to yourself. Which brings us to boundaries, a concept she emphasizes as critical for authentic relationships and self-worth. It's about defining your limits, your needs, your physical and emotional space, and communicating them. For Dr. Lepra, this meant setting boundaries with her enmeshed family. First around food, then time, eventually leading to a painful but necessary period of complete separation to truly find her own authentic self outside of their influence. It's not about controlling others, it's about honoring your needs, even if it feels not nice or generates feel-bads like guilt or shame. Ultimately, this journey leads to reparenting yourself. This means giving your inner child all the things it didn't get as a child, becoming your own wise inner parent. She outlines 4 pillars for this emotional regulation: learning to allow emotions to pass through you, like the 90-second rule, where physiological emotional events only last about 90 seconds if your mind doesn't spin stories around them. Loving discipline making and keeping small daily promises to yourself, like starting with just 1 glass of water a day, Self-care prioritizing sleep, nutrition, movement, time in nature, and rediscovering your childlike wonder, creativity, spontaneity, playfulness. She shares her own radical act of dancing freely on the beach, something she avoided for decades due to childhood body shame. It's about embracing joy for its own sake. This all feeds into emotional maturity, which she stresses, has nothing to do with age. It's the ability to tolerate all your emotions, to regulate them, to communicate openly, and to have resilience when things inevitably don't go your way. It's also about being at peace with being misunderstood. Knowing your truth is valid simply because you experienced it, not because someone else validates it. And finally, the goal is interdependence. It's not about being an island, nor is it about codependency. It's about being a whole, authentic self, then connecting with others in mutually supportive ways. With clear boundaries and shared respect. This is where the self-healers community she built online comes in, millions of people co-creating a safe space for healing, demonstrating that connection is essential for survival and well-being. As our internal state shifts to safety and balance, we actually co-regulate those around us, creating a ripple effect of healing. So what's the big takeaway for you? This book is a powerful invitation to reclaim your power. Dr. Lapro's message is clear: healing is possible, and you're your own best healer. You don't need a guru or a quick fix. It's about daily, consistent work, small, conscious choices every single day that build trust in yourself and rewire your brain and body. Her epilogue perfectly encapsulates this journey. After years of searching for a quote that inspired her awakening, we do not remember days, we remember moments she couldn't recall it. Then, years later, during a global pandemic when she felt overwhelmed and disconnected, the quote literally appeared on a pizza box delivered to her door. It was a powerful affirmation of her growth, inspiring her to finally reach out and attempt to reconnect with her family from a place of wholeness and choice. This book isn't just about understanding your past, it's about empowering you to create a new future. It's about realizing that while there are things outside your control, you have immense power over how you experience the world, how you care for yourself, and how you connect with others and the universe. If you feel lost, stuck, or yearning for deeper connection, picking up how to do the work might just be the most profound, transformative step you can take. It will teach you how to choose your own path and trust yourself every step of the way.